France has with Algeria. Now, do I think that Charlie Hebdo was attacked just because of past French foreign policy? No. They were mad because Charlie Hebdo criticized the Prophet Muhammad. But you have to look at it as a whole. Is Ron Paul an idiot for making those comments? No, he's not. He's not. Is he a bad messenger? Yeah, he is a bad messenger. But in this situation, I'm going to defend Ron Paul. I never thought I would say that. I'm going to defend Ron Paul for that and tell Red State to chill out. Anyway, we are going to take a break because it is the bottom of the hour, and we're a minute late, and Liz would kill me. And when we get back, we may keep on this discussion. We may also look at some of the other stuff that is going on, especially because I really want to get into this free community college thing because it gives me a headache. But I want to talk local politics first, specifically based on some of the anger that has happened recently with John Boehner. So we will do this. We will be back right after this. This is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm your host, Taylor Millard, back after this. Here's just a sample of what you can expect when you listen to Amanda and the Edge of Anarchy Monday nights on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
So freedom and liberty can actually help the state. Take marijuana, for example. If we legalize it, we should force Congress to smoke it. I mean, can you imagine the outcome of that? Hey, Senator Reid, I got a great idea. Let's just not tax Taco Bell. Leave them alone. Maybe they'll, take a taco and put it in your burrito. And
That's the Edge of Anarchy with your host, Amanda, Monday nights at 9 on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
We want to welcome Michael Moore to Occupy Wall Street. I'm so impressed by what I'm seeing here.
How much of people's income do you, Michael Moore, want the government to confiscate?
Probably twice what we're paying right now.
It's not envy, it's war.
Where's the rage? Where's the uprising?
Storm the doors of the New York Stock Exchange.
It is a class war.
If the wealthy paid their fair share.
For a documentary filmmaker, I do really well. I'm very blessed.
And the rich thought poverty was bad.
I do well.
They get rid of it.
What pure? There's nothing pure about capitalism.
And they know what's coming on Wall Street.
We're seeing the end of capitalism. And I say good riddance.
He is one of my favorite capitalists. Yeah, I want to give him a hug.
Hi, this is Jonah Goldberg from National Review, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
You're listening to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge with Taylor, right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
The folks in the chat room are making fun of me for the fact that I said that Ron Paul was right or defended Ron Paul. Folks got to remember is that I do like Ron Paul. I don't always agree with him, and like I said, I think he's a horrible messenger. But I think his love of freedom and liberty cannot be denied, even if he needs to get better press people. I remember in 2012 at his alternative convention, because he wasn't invited to the, or he was invited to the Republican National Convention, but they wanted him to go because so he could endorse Mitt Romney, and he was like, I'm not going to endorse Mitt Romney. So he had his little alternative convention, and he said he made a comment about September 11th wouldn't have happened if I had been elected president, but he made it in a worse way. And I was just like, oh, Ron, no, don't say that. But, yeah, that is one of the ways that he came off like a horrible messenger, which he, does come off as one from time to time. Coming up at the top of next hour, I am looking forward to this. Stephen Glaug, Peter Ream, George Templeton, all from Free Radical Network, as well as Lucy Steyerwald from antiwar.com. We're going to get together and we're going to discuss police policy. And I am very much looking forward to that. Because that ought to be a very interesting conversation. This is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. I'm your host, Taylor Millard. Fishy says the man is a horrible evangelist for liberty. Not me, Ron Paul. Although I'm sure there are some people out there who think I'm a horrible evangelist for liberty, too. You know something? I'll tell you this. I think that that Ron Paul does come off very, very crazy sometimes. And I think that is something that Rand Paul has done a very, very good job at learning from the mistakes of his father. And sometimes I think that Ron Paul just needs to shut up. Especially if Rand is running for president. He needs to shut up. He really does. I'm just saying. He needs to shut up. But that's just me. Now, one of the things that Alan Bordius and I did earlier this week was we did Real Rhino Radio. And that was discussing some of the reaction that happened to the fact that John Boehner was reelected as House Speaker. Now, I said on Real Rhino Radio that I would have voted for Justin Amash. I would have voted for Justin Amash if I had been a congressman, and I would not have voted for John Boehner. And yeah, that was a protest vote. It would have been a protest vote, but I would have done it, and I'll admit that I would have done it. But the reaction to that has been calling Neil Love a traitor, calling Trey Gowdy a traitor. I don't want to get into that because we covered it on Real Rhino Radio, which you can listen to at vigilantlibertyradio.us. We will have a post on it at some point. You can listen to that and hear some of the discussion on that. But it really brought up the fact that all politics is local. And I was reminded of this the day, or later on in that day, when there were some comments by Governor-elect Greg Abbott that he made to the Texas Public Policy Foundation, when he discussed about the fact that Texas is being California-ized. And this is what Abbott said. We are forming a patchwork quilt of bans and rules and regulations that are eroding the Texas model. Some cities are telling citizens you don't owe some things on your property that you have purchased and owned for a long time. Things like trees. And he called such rules, this is from the Dallas Morning News, he called such rules a form of collectivism. Now, one of the things that ought to be pointed out is that some of these discussions, or some of these comments, had to do with the fact that Dallas is doing a new ban on single-use bags, both paper and plastic, by the way. And how are how are stores getting around that? Well, I know one store that is not giving out any bags. I know one store that is giving out bags which aren't really bags. And the big stores like Whole Foods, like CVS, like Central Market, they're giving out smaller paper bags which don't fall under the ordinance. They're safe. They don't fall under the ordinance. So they're getting around it. And I thought that it was really interesting that that's how these stores are getting around it. But the other thing that is going on is you had Denton approve a ban on fracking. Voters approved a ban on fracking, which basically means that nobody can drill on their property anymore within the city of Denton. And the San Antonio City Council approved new regulations earlier this week, last month, which is basically putting Uber out of business. Uber and Lyft will not be allowed to operate in San Antonio because of the new regulations that are there. And Uber and Lyft, for those who don't know, they are ride-sharing companies. The reason why that people are interested in that is that you use an app, that people work part-time. At the same time, you have people who are mostly against it are the cab companies, because the cab companies see that they're losing business. And instead of trying to get their acolytes together, instead of trying to make their businesses better, they are getting their acolytes together to push the new guys out of competition. It's ridiculous. But this is what happens when government and businesses get too tied together. The Uber and taxi cab ordinances, as well as the plastic bags, as well as, honestly, the fracking. Now, there was a comment which was made by the Texas... it was made by the Texas Municipal League, which represents city governments in Austin. And what the group's executive director said to the Dallas Morning News, it's disappointing to hear the governor-elect wants to overrule the will of city voters on a range of issues. It amounts to the same kind of governmental overreach at the state level that he opposes when it comes from Washington. Now, my question is that true? Is it true that Abbott really wants to override the will of the people? And if you're protecting freedom and liberty, this is my argument on that. If you're protecting freedom and liberty, not just from a social standpoint, but from an economic standpoint, and this is something that both F.A. Hayek discusses in The Road to Serfdom, as well as Damon Root in Overruled, and I recommend both books, by the way. Damon Root is an editor at Reason Magazine. And Overruled is a book of the Supreme Court. But if the government is defending freedom and liberty of contract, with the liberty of contract being that as a property owner, I make a deal with a company to